So it is Dr. Seuss's birthday. So happy birthday, Dr. Seuss. We are having a pajama day, so I have my semi jammies on. We're going to be doing rotations this afternoon with our book buddies, so I'm very excited about it. I am going to be the snack room, so I will have a snack for the kids, and then I will read a book that goes along with the snack, and then they're gonna have like a little activity that they can do just to like save on time, like, because I think I have like 30 minutes, and I'm pretty sure that they'll all finish their snack and I'll finish the book within 30 minutes. So that'll be fun. So let me show you what I'm doing for their snack. So the book is based off of Hop on Pop. So I'm getting just like little cups, and then I put the paper inside of it, just like paper that I found at Walmart, and then I cut it in half. So then I'm gonna just insert some popcorn right on the inside of their cup, and then they'll get to do some fun activities afterwards to go along with it. But that is what they're gonna get to do. I have a lot of popcorn that I'm gonna have to pop later on this afternoon. I did have to go out and buy socks because I couldn't find socks. So yeah, I have to take my feet out of these shoes after a while because they start to make my feet sweaty. So that's gross. TMI, right? Other than that, this morning I've been going through doing a lot of grading, so that's kind of my process of what I've been doing. Sorry if it's not very fun and fancy, and it's very boring actually. I have made some copies of a book that I had gotten when I was at Responsive Classroom. Like, I saw these, you know, like those old-fashioned books, and I can show you. So it's like the ones that we used to see whenever we would have like, which one did I do it out of? But it was like these, you know, like your normal like reading books that everybody would be reading out of. So what I did is I made copies of stories that came out of this book specifically for my kids who don't get their work done. So my kids who don't want to do their status of reading, like, it's just like it makes me cringe. And then what they're trying to do is they're trying to be a little sneaky, and I mean, I have to praise them for trying to be sneaky. It's funny, and it's kind of cute, kind of not, but it's funny, because I'm like, oh my gosh, y'all, come on, I know this, like, I know what you're doing, but they're trying to give me the exact same summary of the exact same book that I've read aloud, like as a read aloud, because typically I let them get a picture book, and they have to read the picture book during that time, and then they have to complete the summary. Well, they're trying to get sneaky and do either one, do the same book, or two, do a read aloud where they don't have to like read the actual book and they can just write the summary. So now I'm gonna be very sinister teacher here, and for those babies who just choose that they don't want to get my work done during my class, that then they're gonna have to pick from they're gonna have to get one of these. So this will be book A, book B, C, and I'll just keep making copies. But I've made 6 copies, so they'll have to read this, and they'll have to submit the summary for that as makeup work. So I've done that. I've done their reading assessments, graded those, put those online. I've been looking at their text structure packets that they had to do, so I've been looking at that. Some of them are gonna have to go back and redo them. And then I have already looked at the work from yesterday, so I'm preparing my checklist for today. All day, I have just been either grading or checking kids off or making copies this morning. Story of my life. I want to call my mom this morning because I did not talk to her yesterday. I was feeling a little like rare because I am very overwhelmed with how much I'm having to get done right now. I keep thinking, oh my gosh, I have 2 more weeks, literally 2 weeks until I go to the Ron Clark Academy. So I have 2 full teaching weeks that I have with these kids. Within those 2 full teaching weeks, I also have conferences that I have to do, and it's a pretty good like 20, 30, maybe 30 something conferences that I'm gonna have to fill out those forms for. So that's another thing that's on my plate. And then I come back after that, and I have 1 week, and then we have state testing, which I am not one. I don't care, like, our district doesn't care about the test, you know, it is not about how kids do on the test, but at the same time, I don't want my kids to be overwhelmed. So I gotta let you go. Bye. I can't do it. Hello everyone. So by the time you are seeing this, it is no longer Friday, and you are hopefully enjoying your weekend. So I hope you are having a very, very lovely weekend. It's gotten cold here all of a sudden again. So hopefully it'll get a little bit nicer. But it's Friday for me. It is the very end of the day. I'm so happy that it's Friday. I am actually extremely exhausted, although I don't seem like it right now because I'm a little bit higher energy. I think I had way too many cups of coffee just now. But what I want to really talk to you guys about today is I wanted to kind of go back, take a flashback to kindergarten, and talk to you guys about some activities that you could do for the month of March. So typically in the month of March, some of the different themes that I would always do, because kindergarten, first grade, you're very themey, I feel like, or at least for me, I was very themey. I kind of wanted it to relate to what the kids were observing, like at home and just with seasons and that type of thing. So for the month of March, not only did we do Dr. Seuss at the very beginning of the month, because March 2nd is Dr. Seuss's birthday. So we would have Dr. Seuss days, but then I would also start working on weather, and I would bring in St. Patrick's Day, and then we would work on clouds. So it was a lot of just weather, clouds, St. Patrick's Day, because St. Patrick's Day has rainbows. We also talked about rainbows. So I wanted to share with you some of my weather activities that I did with them, give you guys some really great ideas that you can use. And if you hop on over to my blog, which I'm going to get up this evening, I have a couple of freebies for you guys so that you can go and snag them and use them within your own classrooms. So I always started my weather unit off with poems. I absolutely loved using poems in my classroom. I loved using songs in my classroom. I adored it. And I always tried to use the chunk that I was teaching that would hopefully fit what I was doing that week. So I would always try to do that chunk during that week. And with the theme for that unit. So one of them was Drip Drop. And if you haven't heard of Drip Drop, oh my gosh, it is the most adorable little song I have ever heard. And here's how it goes. It goes drip drop on the rooftop, hear the rainfall plop plop plop, slip slop, grab the mop, won't that rainstorm ever stop. It is so cute, and my kids loved singing it, and it was by far one of my favorite things. And I think the part that I loved it too is I incorporated these songs throughout the day. So typically, like during transitions, when I wanted to get their attention, I would start singing this song and they would just kind of join in with me, and they loved it. So I used that one to teach. I reviewed IP, and then I was going over OP. OP was the one that I would be introducing for this poem. The next one that I used was one called Weather. There was a time when we got wet and rainy was the weather. R-A-I-N-Y, 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 and rainy was the weather. There was a time when we got hot and sunny was the weather. S-U-N-N-Y, 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 and sunny was the weather. So it just goes over rainy, sunny, and then cloudy. But again, I loved using songs and poems to introduce a new theme into the classroom. And I think with this one, I would have done the word there as like one of my focus words. And when. There and when would have been some of my focus words for that actual poem. So not only did I always start it off with poems and reading, of course I always had some little activities that I started it off with in math. And when I started it off in math, I thought I had it out and I accidentally picked up the wrong one. I was never recording. That's kind of bleh. Okay, so not only did I introduce it during my reading and writing time, I also introduced it in math. Now this activity is not just for math. You could also do it during like a science and social studies time if you choose to do it during that time. I chose to introduce it during math because it was a really great way for us to talk about data. So I had little cutouts, and one of them was a sun, cloud, for a snowflake, rainy. So then what they would do is we would talk about some of the different types of weather, and then I would introduce to them those 4 different types. Those were the only 4 that they got to choose from. And so the kids, I had like a big huge chart like just chart paper that I could get from, you know, our school, and the kids got to graph. So they graphed it from that point, and we called it like our pictorial graph. And so that was pretty interesting because they had like the pictures that they thought it was really fun to do that. And then we also brought in the weather data analysis. So the kids got to graph it here, and then they had to do tally marks. They had to tell me which one had the most, which one had the least. They had to do tally marks here, and then they had some math problems that they had to do here. So it was always interesting. The kids really enjoyed doing some of these little fun activities, and it was a great way to kind of introduce some of that and also bring in a lot of that counting and practicing with numbers and being able to view numbers in different forms. So a great way to do that is by using one of these activities. So if you've been following me for a while, then you know that I had something called super centers in my classroom, and these are just centers that my kids would be able to complete throughout the week. They knew that these were things that they had to get done the entire week. They could choose when they got them done during their reading workshop time, or if they chose to do it during their enrichment time, which was in the afternoon. So I incorporated a lot of my science and social studies into my reading time, and I did this in just a number of different ways. I did it with my books. I did it with those, you know, those charts where we would have discussions with it. I would also pull them into small groups. I would do it in math time. So I'm constantly tying in everything that we're doing. During writing, we're writing about weather. We're talking about it. We're describing weather. So the kids have had plenty of opportunities to kind of gain more schema or gain more knowledge on the topic that we're learning about. My kids absolutely loved these centers. I think these were probably one of our best centers that we had in there, and this was probably one of the ones that they had the most fun with. But there were, I think, four or five activities that the kids got to do, and I'm gonna remember by the time I sit here and do all this. And for some reason, when I was looking back through this, y'all, I am so sorry, but for some reason I could not find the completed pieces within my binder. Like usually I will always have like all the finished pieces inside of my binder so that I can keep them every year and I don't have to remake them. I don't know where they're at, sorry. But here was one of the activities. So we talked about tornadoes, and these were our twister facts. So the kids, and I had this copied on purple paper, but they got to tell me facts about twisters, which was really fun. So there was one day where our read aloud was just like twisters, tornadoes, and we talked about tornadoes, and we got to build some information, and we, you know, had schema about tornadoes, and the kids got to write down all of their facts on anchor charts. So then they got to complete this during their time. And for some of those kids that really need that extra support, that's where you can provide some of those sentence stems for them. Tornadoes are, tornadoes can, tornadoes have. Those types of stems are really beneficial for some of those kids who just struggle really bad with coming up with their own sentences. So that was one thing that I did. Was I had also some stems for those kids when it came to their time that they were starting to work on these. But they loved this. So they had this, and what they did afterwards, and I also printed these off in a little cardstock, and I think I did this in yellow. But I had this in yellow, and I had a little popsicle stick, so the kids cut this out, and then they had a little popsicle stick, and it said twisting facts. And they had that coming out of it, and they would, that was it. But that was their little art, and then we put it up on our board, and the kids were so proud of it. And it was just a really great way for us to be able to incorporate that craft piece into that learning piece as well. Because I know so many times, like I was always like, oh, I want to do more crafts, but I really want to make this learning authentic, and I want to make them that, like I want to like put importance on learning. And this was a really great way for me to be able to do that, was to be able to incorporate it with some type of a clip art that they would just be able to cut out, and it just looked cute at the end of it, and the kids really enjoyed it, and there wasn't a lot to it, you know what I mean? Like it was pretty simple and easy. So this was one of the activities that we did. Another activity that we completed was a weather syllable sort. So I had some of the different types of syllable, and this was a way for me to incorporate some of that phonological awareness with my kids was to be able to have them just cut these out, and they had to glue them down and just complete a sort. And this again was a really easy and fun way for me to be able to see, what are my kids really understanding? Are they applying some of the things that we've been learning? Are they understanding some of the things that I've been teaching them? Are they able to tell me what some of these words are? Are they building some of that basic vocabulary of weather words that we've been learning? So again, just another very easy and fun way for the kids to be able to do it. They enjoyed coloring it, and it came out just pretty simple and cute. Another one that we did, and again y'all, I apologize, like I am so sorry, but I for real cannot find this, and I am gonna just insert the little picture of this right here so you can see it. But we had a little sun, so you had like pieces like this that you had to cut out, and these were all copied onto yellow paper, and the kids had to do rhymes with sun and does not rhyme with sun, basically. And so they had a little list of words that they had to go through. These were the list. So they went through this little list of words, and they had to cut them out, and they had to glue them onto the pieces, either the sun or the cloud, because it came with a cloud as well. So you would glue this sun onto this cloud, so it was like coming off of it right here. So the sun would have words that rhyme, and the cloud had words that did not rhyme. So again, just a really easy way for me to be able to incorporate a craft with that learning and be able to see whether or not my kids are understanding some of the things that we've been practicing. Again, the kids enjoyed it. They loved these little, I guess it's called smart art, if I think I researched it correctly, but it was absolutely fun, and the kids really, really enjoyed it. One of the very last ones that was more of a smart art that we did was a thunderstorm description. So this is where they were describing a thunderstorm to me. They had to use some of those adjectives, and they were using some of those really rich words that we had been talking about that week. But it comes with a little cover page, and then the back cloud has the lines on it. So this is where the kids would actually do their writing. So they would cut both of them out, they would staple it, and then I also just cut out little zigzags, and it was not fancy, y'all. Like I just took a piece of like yellow construction paper, just cut out some zigzags, and I said, whoops, there you go, there's your lightning. And they would put a little lightning bolt underneath it and glue it to it, so there was a little lightning bolt stuck out. Again, really simple, but it was a great way for me to be able to bring in that learning along with the theme that we were learning about for that week. So that was another activity. The last activity that I had inside of my super center, and I tried to have at least 5. So that means that the kids would do at least one of these a day. Now there were some kids who were straight like gung-ho, and they would say, you know what, I'm gonna do like all of them for the entire week, and then I don't have to worry about anything, and then I can do kind of the things like the extra activities that I wanted to do for that week. And I said, you know what, that's completely fine, that's your prerogative. If that's how you want to do it, do it. But there were some, you know, that one a day was absolutely perfect for them, and it kept them structured, and it kept them, you know, I'm just gonna do 1 2 3 4 5 5, and then I'm done for the week. The next one that I had was a little bit of a higher level one, but this one said, how would you stay safe during a tornado? So the reason why I chose to do this one was because where I lived in Alabama, we had a lot of tornadoes. Tornadoes was very common there. So I wanted to incorporate something that they could also apply for when they go home. So I said, what are some things that you can do that could help you during this time when, if you had a tornado, what would you do? Like, what are some ways that you would be able to stay safe? So they would tell me almost in a how-to. First you would do this, second you would do this, last you would do this, and then they would have to illustrate it for me up here. Great way for them to apply all of the things that we've been learning within our class. And it was a great way for me to be able to see what are some of the things that they're doing and make sure that they understand what are some ways that we can stay safe when there is a tornado. So that was one of the very last activities that I did. Another activity that I really enjoyed doing, and during this time I think I did it a little bit more during that enrichment time, was a wind sock. And mine is a little bit awful, I'm sorry, but literally what I did is when we introduced a lot of that vocabulary, and I wanted to gave them, we made our weather words anchor chart, then I had the kids go back and I said, I want you to take this piece of cardstock, and that's literally all I did, was I gave them a white piece of cardstock, and I said, I want you to draw your weather word, and I want you to write the word down underneath it. So that's exactly what they did. So they went around and they just drew their weather words. and they wrote the words underneath it. Then I said, okay, and this is when I was also introducing this during writing time as well. So I guess let me back up a little bit. So during writing time, we were also working on how-to pieces of writing. So I told the kids, I said, okay, we are going to learn how to make wind socks. And they were like, oh, I said, yes, I know. I'm so excited about making these wind socks. These are going to be so wonderful. They're going to decorate our classroom. You're going to be able to see the wind blowing in them. It's going to be beautiful. So during that time, I said, but we need to first make sure that you know how to do it. So I said, so we're gonna learn how to make a wind sock. So I told them, I said, here's how we do it. And I showed them how to do it. I said, okay, so the first thing I do is I take a piece of cardstock, and they loved learning about cardstock. And it was so funny because after they learned how to say the word cardstock and they knew what cardstock was, they would not stop saying it. They were like, oh, well, Miss Backman, this is cardstock. And I said, I know it, buddy. They were probably going home and tell their parents about cardstock. I said, you're gonna take a piece of cardstock and you're gonna do it this way, where it's really long all the way across, and you're gonna wrap it, and then we're going to staple it. So they had that down, where they had to make a cylinder, and we also incorporated that math word in there too. And then I said, then you're gonna take 4 streamers, and you're going to glue the streamers inside your cylinder. And then I said, last, you're gonna take your string, and you're gonna tape your string on 2 sides inside of your wind sock, and that would make your wind sock. So after the kids had already built up that writing, we worked on writing the how-to. They had to illustrate how to write and how-to. Then in that afternoon, after they had showed me their writing, I said, okay, now I'm gonna leave all of the materials out, and now I want you to make your wind sock using the writing that you have just finished. So using their writing, they had to do it, but they used their winter or their weather words cardstock that they had done earlier to create their wind sock, which it was actually so beautiful, but the kids absolutely loved it. So that's what we also made during that time. Another fun little activity that we did, and I guess this was a little bit more towards like clouds time, but once we started doing clouds, I absolutely love Eric Carle's book with the little cloud. So they got to create their little clouds using torn pieces of paper, which was always fun. And then they did their writing down at the bottom. My little cloud turned into, and this is nothing fancy, like I literally chopped paper and did it. It was nothing fancy, but it absolutely worked, and the kids absolutely, again, they loved it. And I am sure so many of you have probably seen these like on Pinterest, but my very first, I think it was my first year, my second year, something to that extent, when we started learning about clouds, I made my little cloud men, but we laminated them. And then on the back, we wrote our little cheat sheets to talk about some of the different characteristics of each of the little clouds. So as I introduced the little clouds, I also had my information on the very back so the kids could tell which one. So we introduced all of our little clouds, which was always fun. And so the kids got to do some describing words with clouds. They got to make, I know some of you have seen it too, the ones that you use with cotton balls. And again, I don't have that one, so I'm really sorry, but I'm pretty sure that you can just Google it on Pinterest and you would absolutely find it. And then we went around observing some of the clouds. So I had these kind of laid out, and I had strips of paper laid on the tables, and I had these kind of placed randomly. So the kids got to do like a little gallery walk where they walked around and they would just write what it was that they observed about some of the clouds. So they wrote their little observations that they had. And then one day when it was nice and cloudy and sunny and beautiful outside, we went around and observed clouds using our windows. So the kids got to lay on the grass, and they had this kind of sticking here, and so they were comparing to figure out what kind of clouds it was that they observed. So these were always really fun and easy to make. It wasn't that hard to make. But we also talk about the weather cycle, and we went through and did some weather cycle activities, but I don't really have anything that was super fun about that. I think the only weather cycle activity that I actually had, let me see. So the only little weather cycle activity I had was this. And honestly, I have no idea where I ended up getting it from, but we created a little weather cycle, and then they had to write a how-to of the weather cycle during writing time. So that was, again, another way that I incorporated it during my writing time. So those were some of the activities that I did for my weather unit. The Super Center Weathers, the one that has the tornadoes, the sun, the thunderstorm description, the what would you do when if a tornado hits, writing, and then also the, I can't remember which other one it was. I think that was it. And then the sun, the rhyming sun. All of that is inside of a unit that I have in my store. So I'm going to leave a link down to that so that you guys can go and check that out and get one of those so that you can incorporate it into your lessons. I really and honestly believe that your kids are going to absolutely love it. And I feel like you are going to love it because it is so much less maintenance. But for freebie time, I am going to put this up for free on my website. So go down below, go to my blog, go and check it out and grab this for free. I feel like I'm gonna go ahead and end it here because my battery is about to die. Hope you enjoyed this video and got some really great ideas for what you are gonna do for weather. Stay tuned very soon because I will have a video on St. Patrick's Day coming very, very, very soon. Give the video a thumbs up, guys, share it out, subscribe, and I will talk to you all very, very soon. Bye!